Hello ladies and gents, this is another video brought to you by Ant Hood. I hope you enjoyed my last video about building my ant terrarium, and this is the second part of that. The first video ended with this completed picture, but I'd like to rewind a little bit and then talk about how I got to this stage. We got to this stage where I was trying to decorate it and absolutely making a dog's dinner of it, so I had to call the missus for backup to give me some pointers because she's really good at decorating her stuff. But yeah, I'd like to talk about what parts I've put in it and how I've done it. I got some bark off a cork tree and I bought it off eBay, and because I bought multiple items and had to pay post on individual items, he put an extra fairly large bit of cork in as free, as you can tell by the letter, so that's much appreciated. Didn't end up using it, but it doesn't mean I won't use it in future builds. So why cork bark? Well, it doesn't rot, it doesn't really react with anything, it's resistant to mold and fungus and stuff like that, so it's ideal, and a lot of people that build terrariums use it, so I copycatted it basically and got some for mine. But not that though, aesthetically it looks really good too. What I also like about it is hollow, so they can make the nests in there, and there's loads of little cubby holes that they can get in and out of as well, so it's a really good choice, to be fair, for decoration and for my ants. As I stated in my last video, I did quite a fair bit of research and watched YouTube videos of people building terrariums. A lot of them use nerve plants, so I picked up two variants myself. I got this one and this one. They look pretty, they suited to the high humidity and the high temperature, and they grow really well, so ideal for any terrarium. While I was at the garden centre with a wife, I went into the indoor plant area and came across these next two beauties. I got no idea what they are or what they're called. At the time I googled what the name was and had to have a look if the climate requirements was equal to what I was hoping to achieve with this terrarium, and luckily enough they were. So I added them to the back because they had the larger plants, and I think they suited quite well. As you can probably see with the completed picture, which I'll show you again in a bit, they're slightly elevated from the front just to give a bit of depth and a bit of elevation, but I need to be careful because if they grow too much they'll start touching the roof of the terrarium, which means potential escape risk, so I need to be mindful of that. I then picked up some fern moss. Now it came in this packaging and I was none too hopeful. It was dry and didn't look alive, but I gave it the benefit of the doubt and put it in, and once it got some moisture it opened up and it looks really good now. I think aesthetically underneath the tree and covering the mound of mud, it looks really good. I have got no idea how you pronounce the name of this plant, and I'm not going to even bother trying to. But what I'll do is I'll put the name of the plant on the screen now. The reason I picked it is because I wanted something that was a bit more broader leafed than the other stuff that I'd got in there. Not only that though, I think the darker leaves kind of set it off against the rest of the plants in there, so I like it. Now this is a Cupid Peace Lily. Now it's got some fandangled Latin name to start with, but I'm not even going to bother trying to pronounce that. Yeah, again, it's broadleaf but pale, looks nice, and hopefully it'll do well in here too. Now this is an air plant. It needs humid environments to survive because it doesn't drink like standard plants for a root system. This absorbs it through the leaf. Now some of the more observant one of you might have seen it previously in my Polyrachus Outworld, the first one, because I've been planning this for a while and I put them in there because it was humid, but unfortunately the other one looks about dead and this one isn't doing too well. All I've done to attach it to the bark is just buy super glue, which is recommended. Fingers crossed though, it'll perk up and do well in there. I've only just took this clip, but it's so you can see the ants running around, and I'll talk about how I got them in there shortly. But if you look at the decoration, I think I've built it up at the back to give it a bit of scope, a bit of depth. I've got plenty of areas for them to make nests if they choose to, and I've put leaf down as a bit of an aesthetic thing, which I think looks good. I can't stress enough to you guys how important it is that you let it settle. I left mine for 2 weeks before I even did this video and moved my ants in, which I did earlier today. As you can see here, I've got temperature probes all over the place because I wanted to get an idea of the temperature once it settled with the heat mat that I was using. So I've got probes all over the place so I can get a good gauge of temperature. I've also used the digital thermometer controller thingamajiggy that I've shown in my previous videos. It's trustworthy, reliable, and I like it. Now it's settled, I've taken it out and only left two in. One being this one right at the back, which shows a temperature 34 degrees and a humidity of 8%. Now don't panic guys, I know that Polyrachus like temperature 30 and 34 is a bit too warm for them. but it's only hot at the back near the heat mat, and there's a temperature gradient from the back to the front, with the front one being here, which you can see is 26 with a humidity of 50. Now the humidity does fluctuate, to be fair, depending when I've watered them and when I've done stuff like that, but generally speaking it's bob on. Bearing in mind this is a big tank, there is going to be a big temperature variant, but it's good because the ants can then pick where area they want to nest in, which best suits their requirements and what makes them comfortable. No bioactive setup is complete without some form of cleanup crew. Now I've used tropical springtails here because of the climate requirements, and I use some tropical wood lice as well. Now these are the giant orange ones and some tropical ones. Now they should survive alright in this climate, but you need these because they break down the rubbish that the ants leave and recycle it into nutrients for the plants. Now I'm getting ready to move them in after it's settled for a couple of weeks. I've now been putting a barrier around it to make sure they can't escape. As you guys might be aware, I think tried and tested is always best. So I've used Ant Boy's clear barrier. It's really good in humidity, way better than PTFA or whatever the hell it's called. On their old Outworld, I made a custom opening, which is great because it's just the right size to accept tubes that I use. But it's also got my temperature probe going in, so I had to quickly take it out without any ants escaping, which wasn't too difficult at this point, but later on in the video you'll see that it was an issue and I got some escapees. Now as I want to use the temperature probe for this Outworld still, because I want to keep the old one on heat, because I don't want to force a move. I want them to get used to the terrarium first, get used to the space, and if they seem to be predominantly in there they might move their own accord. But if I do want to take them off the temperature to force a move, that's something I might contemplate at a later date. Because I've not got much space at the moment, I've had to make a bit of a tubing thing so I can weave it in and out my current nest to get it into the terrarium from the old one. I've also got the temperature probe coming out of it because I'm going to put it back in the old hole. I know it goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway. Where the probe goes in to the setup, I'll put some cotton wool to stop them escaping. I need to make sure there's in a bit of force, so I got my pokey out and forced it in without poking a hole right through it like I just did. But yeah, force it in there, make sure it's in there nice and tight so they don't escape out of it. It appears from just before I was about to stick the tubing in, the ants seem to be having a bit of a rave down by the cotton wool, probably a bit annoyed that I've damaged some of their nest pulling the old probe out. But rather than waiting until they settled down and moved on, I decided in my infinite wisdom to still try and put the tubing in. And then I got some escapees, as you'll see in a sec. As you can see here, it's a bit of a design flaw from me with my measurements. I'd put the holes too low, or requested the holes too low. So what I've had to do is use a bit of the cork bark, which is in a small tube, and dig it down to the hole to make sure the soil doesn't get in it. Works really well and actually looks quite nice too. Now it's connected to the terrarium, I need to connect it to the old Outworld. Now as you can see here, I've got the probe sticking out, which makes it really fiddly when I'm trying to stick it in, which as you'll see, I get some escapees because of it. It's not a major drama that, by the way, because I just picked them back up, but still a little mess. Now, somehow I managed to get my hands in the way because I'm absolutely useless at picking angles to film stuff with. So I'm going to cut the video here and go to the bit where I'm having to police up all the ants. Yep, so the tubing's in, but as you can see I've got escapees everywhere. Now, you know what I said before in my last video, happy wife, happy life. Well, she wasn't too happy because I must have missed one of my polyrachus running around, because she come waltzing into the room holding an ant saying, "Is this one of your ants?" It was. Oops. Now, despite having an upset wife, they're not too difficult to pick up. I just used my tweezers and cotton wool. Now, I didn't pinch them with my tweezers because I just squish them. So what I do is put my tweezers in front of them, let them climb onto the tweezers, and just tap them into the old Outworld. As you can see what I'm doing here, just coaxing it onto a bit of cotton wool, I think it was. Then on the tweezer, then I tapped her into the Outworld. All good, no dramas, apart from the escapee and an angry wife. This is my very last cockroach because I failed to order some more because I'm stupid. Well, I have just worked 9 days straight, so I forgot to order them, what can I say. But I put it in there as an offering with some honey water, so it gives them something to look for and reason to set up a trail into the terrarium and hopefully get them moving. And as you can see, it didn't take them long to start exploring the terrarium. This one did it a little bit, to be fair, but once she got momentum going, she ran straight in there. Closely followed by the workers. It did not take long for them to come out exploring, but I've kind of had the inkling that they've wanted to expand for a while, because they've been trying to get out the nest more than normal. They've been picking at the cotton wool that was in there, so I kind of got the gist that they wanted an expansion, so it's probably come just at the right time. They kind of ignored the honey water, but I think they had the fill last night with some honey I put in for them. But they set up a foraging trail to the cockroach, and they're also exploring the rest of the terrarium, so I think they're going to be happy here, but only time will tell. But that's it for now, guys. I hope you like my little journey of building a terrarium, and hope you are going to carry on following these ants in the new setup. I'll let you know when I move them to the new homes, but please like and subscribe if you like my videos, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye bye.